Hello, everyone. Welcome back to On the Card, presented by TRHS Sports. I'm your host, Phil Wood, coming to you with our third episode of this series. First two episodes saw us doing pretty well. Our first two, we are 17 and 9, not quite 19 yet. 17 and 9. I did just watch Minnesota United fall. So unfortunately, my MLS bets were 0 for this week. And that means probably no more MLS bets ever again. Telling you that Philly one the other day was brutal. The guy, I swear, was onside. He was onside. That goal should have counted. We should have had that one. Unfortunately, we didn't, which ultimately makes it a loss. 17 and 9. We hit our first future, which was the Bucks under 6.5 wins. They did that in 3 games, which is always fantastic to have one out of the way so quickly. And then on top of that, we have the Blazers over 3.5 and the Blazers 8 seed still very much alive. Right now, the Blazers are a half game back of the 8 seed Memphis Grizzlies. It's looking like almost a sure thing that they're going to end up playing in that play-in series. At least they could ultimately get the 8 seed and only have to win 1 game in order to actually play in the playoff. It's one of the best starting fives around right now. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The Trailblazers have looked great the entire time. They're 3-1. We need 1 more win, probably 2 more only, just to get them even into that play-in series. The Grizzlies have looked absolutely atrocious. I will try to make Cameron and Denise both money. That's the idea, right? So those future bets, those are big payouts. Remember, Blazers 8 seed was plus 400 when we put the bet on it. Plus 400. That's an amazing payout and not really a very risky bet. If you just look at NBA rosters and look at the roster that was set before them on this one, it's very obvious that they are better than what their seed said. They had a lot of injuries, but when you're coming out with Zach Collins, Nurk, you have Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Carmelo Anthony. Why could they not beat anybody? And I'll tell you what, with how the Lakers look right now, they could beat the Lakers. Now, I know the Lakers have nothing to play for, but the Lakers have looked like absolute garbage this entire time. So we'll figure out what ends up happening with them. So, as I said, 17 and 9. Right now, we're looking at 3-1 week from the MLB, 3-3 from the NBA, 2-1 from the NHL. If you follow me on my website over at realphilwood.com, or you follow me on Twitter at Philwood Jr., I do put out bets every day. So even though you're not necessarily seeing those bets on here, they are coming out daily. And I was talking to Russell earlier, and I think that there's a good possibility that this is going to end up becoming more than just a twice a week thing, especially until we get to the NFL college football season. That becomes easy because then you can just focus on things that are happening once a week. Whereas with this, look at who this is. This is something I have to pull up here on my phone. So just bear with me for just a moment as I scroll through this. But it's so hard to be looking towards the future. I'm doing this on Thursday night. It's so hard to look towards the future and give you a very confident bet when things like this happen. Here's the Jazz injury report for tomorrow. Mike Conley out. Rudy Gobert out. Donovan Mitchell out. Royce O'Neal out. Nigel Williams-Goss out. It's not even a team. Who is going out and who's going to play? And I think that's going to be a problem as the bubble continues. We're not going to be able to figure out long ahead of time who's actually going to be starting for each team because it's going to change every single day. And a lot of players are sitting. Like I said, the Lakers have looked terrible. Are the Lakers really a 1-3 team or whatever they are right now, or 1-4? I think they're 1-4. Are they 2-3? I don't even know. But either way, they're not that bad. So for them to still be seen with that bad of a record, it's really, really annoying. I see Cameron Church here saying, sounds like some FanDuel value daily fantasy plays. Absolutely. There's a lot of really good fantasy plays. And that's why actually the one aspect that I've really been killing that unfortunately I can't do on this podcast if I'm just doing it twice a week is these player props. I need to be able to actually look at the player props, and I've been killing it on player props because you have Yusef Nurkic going over for 17.5. They moved him up from 14.5 to 17.5 after his first good game, and he hits it both games. He hit it tonight for the Trailblazers, hit it the last time, and he hasn't really looked good in any of them, but still. I mean, it's important to look at these as they're coming out. Michael Porter Jr. has been an absolute steal for anybody who's been able to get in on his overs. So if you're following along kind of day of, it's a little bit easier. Unfortunately, again, because I'm doing this on Thursday night, I just don't think the timing is going to work out because I can't really get any good player props. And right now I'm kind of looking at a Dylan Brooks, maybe over 16.5. I'm not sure. So that's all I'm feeling about that. Just kind of like a prelude into this entire thing that's about to go down here. So I'm looking at a couple bets for this weekend. I'm going to kind of go through the games for this weekend, and I'm going to pretty much talk about why I don't like them. That's the unfortunate part. I'm not going to be sitting here saying I have a lot of bets. I know on the last one, I believe I had 15 or 16, which is why we are at 17-9 right now. I went 9-7 last week, which still keeps us above 500, gets us at that 56%, which is always better than the 52.4, which is really what it comes down to. In this one, though, I'm looking to do a lot better, but unfortunately, that means I'm not going to be looking too far ahead. So do not be surprised if you see an episode of On the Card on Saturday or on Sunday, just because we have too many things going on right now. I'm going to start with the NBA because I think it's the easiest and the hardest one to figure out right now. It's very easy because the players that are playing good, as I've said, are going off. There are certain things that are just happening right now that are just obvious. When you look at something like TJ Warren, you know he's going to score points. Dame, you know he's going to score points. So many people you know are just going to come out and score points right now, and that is what's making it obvious. The Phoenix Suns have been a lock this entire time. That's absolutely absurd that the Phoenix Suns have been a lock the entire time. They're 4-0 during this entire stretch. It's an amazing number, something to keep in mind. Meanwhile, you have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 0-4. The Pelicans come out today and absolutely lay an egg against the Sacramento Kings, give up 140 points. They give up 49.25. This is the New Orleans Pelicans that everybody was expecting to actually be the 8 seed and compete in the NBA playoffs this year. And they give up 49 points to the Sacramento Kings, who are chasing them. There's no effort. There's nothing going on there. So on a daily basis, this is changing all the time with the NBA. Tomorrow's games for Friday, you have the Jazz versus the Spurs. I just went through the Jazz lineup. It's absolutely horrific. OKC, Memphis, Sacramento versus Brooklyn, Orlando, Philly, Washington, New Orleans, Boston versus Toronto. This Boston-Toronto one is going to look really enticing to a lot of people. The number is at 218.5, which seems like a high number for two better defensive teams. I do not trust the under or the over here, though, and I don't trust the spread, which is currently Toronto -3, because I don't know what kind of effort we're going to see from these teams. The Toronto defense, when it's at 100%, is so good. Toronto is going to get the 2 seed. It's all but locked up. If they win this game, they are the 2 seed, but they don't need to win this one. They just need to win one of their games coming up. Effort is a huge factor in this bubble. We saw the Lakers play their entire team the other night and get blown out, get destroyed. We see the Bucks come out and lay an egg in the first half against the Heat and then come back and do well. It's something to keep in mind as we're moving forward. So, what do I like here? I don't like the Boston-Toronto game. It's going to look enticing. Don't touch it. Washington versus New Orleans. I'm trying to see. I was hoping that we would get a total number out before this went live. I want to get this at 228, and then I will take the over. It's currently not out yet. I'm fearing this is going to be 230. At 230, I still play it. Anything higher than that, I don't play it. So I'm going to put that one on the card as Washington, New Orleans over 230. I'm hoping to get it at 228. Doesn't sound like a big difference, but tell that to the people who in the Clippers game, it was, I forget who they were playing, but it was 229. It went up to 230.5, just a 1.5 point thing. Guy hits a triple, goes for 230. And the people who had 230.5 don't get it. The people who had 229 do get it. This is a big difference. So I'm going to sit down here and I'm going to go with this over as long as it's as long as it's 230 or lower. I'm putting that on the card. That's going to be the first bet of the week, is going to be the Washington, New Orleans over 230. Now, if that doesn't come out, obviously it won't count. I'm not just going to make up my own lines and then have this come out at 240 and then count it as a win, because really it doesn't deserve to be counted as a win in that situation. So that's what I have to say about that one. I don't like the spread. Pelicans are favored by 6.5. I think that's too much. They're not good enough to be favored by that much, no matter how bad of a team they're playing. Orlando and Philly, don't really like anything in it. Philly's favored by 5, but Philly's let teams hang around. Philly just hasn't looked right this entire time. Probably going to fade Philly like crazy by the time we hit the playoffs. Sacramento versus Brooklyn. This is an interesting one, which sounds stupid because why would Sacramento versus Brooklyn be interesting in any way, shape, or form? Right now, it's at Sacramento -4. I want to jump all over that, but I'm a little scared of what the Nets are going to put out there. I just cannot figure out the Nets. Sacramento's coming off a back-to-back. They had that great game today against the Pelicans where they had no defense, no hands in their face. I think they're going to beat the Nets. I do think that's going to happen. I might make a money line play on this at some point. -4. Again, it doesn't sound like a big number, but what's to say this game doesn't just end up as a 2-point finisher? It just feels like that type of game. Again, not going to go with it. Like, I just don't know. I mean, Brooklyn comes out and beats the Milwaukee Bucks with their backups and then has 149 points put up against them by the Boston Celtics when the Celtics were coming off a back-to-back where Jaylen Brown almost shot an air ball on a free throw at the end of the game because he was so exhausted. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand Brooklyn. Sacramento's playing for a lot more than Brooklyn is, so maybe that would be a good reason to lean. I would say if for some reason this drops down as it keeps dropping, maybe take it. I just don't quite trust it at 4. I think it's too high of a number. Oklahoma City versus Memphis. I'm taking something here, so don't worry. I'm not just going through this just to go through this. Oklahoma City, Memphis, under 224. I like this under. I was looking at it, and in the last game, Memphis loses to the Jazz 124-115. That's a big number, especially for a Jazz team that was going low a lot. I think the Jazz's offense woke up when they got to play the Lakers and got to score and see the ball go through the basket a couple times. So I think they're feeling pretty good right now, which I think ultimately is what led this number to go up, even though the Grizzlies aren't the reason that this number should go up. The Grizzlies haven't looked right in the bubble, and I think they're going to continue to not look right. Oklahoma City, the only time that they've had a game go over 224 was an overtime game that they lost 121-113, so it went up to 234. But all their other games have been confidently under 224. I think this number is way too high. I think it's a lot based on the fact that the Jazz just put up 124 themselves against Memphis. I don't think that's really reflective of Memphis. I think that's more reflective of the Jazz actually starting to click a little bit in that game. So I'm putting this game right now, Oklahoma City, Memphis, under 224. I'm putting that one on the card. Other game I like here is the Jazz versus the Spurs. However, we don't have a real line out for it yet, which is kind of frustrating. If you can still find this, and I'm saying this to anybody who's listening right now, I know there's not many of you, but congratulations to those of you who are. If you can somehow find this still at San Antonio plus 2.5, take it and put as much as you can on it because it's not going to stay there very, very long. Right now, they are underdogs at 2.5. That's what it opened up as. That was before the Jazz came out and announced that their entire team wasn't playing. I'm expecting San Antonio to be favored by about 5. I like this for San Antonio at -5.5. Anything more than that, I don't like it. So, because we don't have a real number, like I said, if you can get San Antonio as a dog, congrats. San Antonio has a lot to play for. The Jazz are kind of in that middle range right now. They're not playing anybody. You have to go with the Spurs here if you can get it for under 3 possessions there, which is the 5.5. So that being said, I'm going to go with the Spurs for anything better because, again, I can't give you a real number. I am going with the Spurs for anything better than -5.5, and I'm putting that one on the card. So that's something a little bit tricky to go with. Maybe we can get it at an even better number, but now you know exactly what I'm feeling with the Spurs. I think it's too good to be true. Now, when I start looking at the games in the future, again, this is why I really think that I'm going to need to start doing this a little more frequently than I am. If you start looking at some of these games, you got the Clippers versus Portland, Jazz versus Nuggets, Lakers versus Indy, Phoenix, Miami, Milwaukee versus Dallas. That's the Saturday slate. Who's playing for Milwaukee? We have no idea. It's Thursday night. We don't know. Can't make a good read on Milwaukee, Dallas right now. If Milwaukee's not going to play their players, if they are, we don't know. Phoenix versus Miami. These are probably two of the teams that have been playing the hardest in the bubble so far. I like both of those teams a lot. However, Phoenix is playing for a lot more than Miami. And like I said, Phoenix has been a lock this whole time. Are they going to be favored? I don't know because there's so many different factors that are coming into this right now that we're not used to seeing. It's very strange how this is all working out. Jazz versus Nuggets. Are the Jazz resting their players tomorrow so that they can have them all versus the Nuggets? Meanwhile, is Jamal Murray finally going to play for the Nuggets? These are all factors that are just being taken into account. Like I said, you're probably going to see me Saturday. Clippers versus Portland. Portland's on a mission right now. I want to see that number. If I can get Portland at +3.5, I'm taking it 100% and putting it on the card. So that's something that you can at least put there. I don't think it's going to come out that nicely. I think I'm getting a lot of wishful thinking there. But if I can do that, I'm going to put it down here just in case. Portland +3.5 against the Clippers. Would put that on the card in a second, and I really, really like that. I do think that the Clippers, because they don't have much to play for, I don't think it's going to be that nice of a number. I think unfortunately for all of us, it's not going to be that nice. Sunday, I couldn't tell you anything yet. It's just too far in advance. All these teams coming off back-to-backs. What do they have to play for? Who's locked up what? I don't know. So I'm not going to touch that one. I'm going to avoid that. That's really all I have for the NBA right now. Like I said, realphilwood.com. If you go there every morning, if you follow me on Twitter, I tweet out the link to my daily best 5 picks that I can come up with. We went 4-1 yesterday. Today, I think we went 3-2. I actually have to look. We did go 3-2. We lost the Minnesota United, which nobody was going to bet on anyway, and we lost the Pelicans by 4. But we hit the Zion over. We hit the Trailblazers. I had said -4, but didn't know if Jamal Murray was going to play, so took the money line, but told you to take -4 if you could. And then we hit the MLB Rangers A's over 8.5. It went over in the 7th inning, so that was a no-brainer. So again, if you're not following me there, make sure to follow me. You'll be able to get a lot more information than just what you're going to be seeing here, because I have more information when I'm actually making those picks. All right, let's move on then to the NHL. The NHL is getting really interesting right now, and I kind of want to talk about the NHL a little bit more than the MLB, just because right now, with the way the NHL is shaping up, we're starting to see series come to an end. Now, I got to actually pull this up because I don't know if every game from today is over. I don't believe they are. Now, Calgary's beating Winnipeg 2-0 right now. They're going to win the series there. So you might as well, anybody who's looking at the calendar and sees Saturday, Winnipeg versus Calgary, just cross that one off. That game is 100% not going to happen. Calgary destroyed them. The Winnipeg goalie, I cannot pronounce his last name, Hellebuck, something like that, is atrocious. He's terrible. I don't know what he's doing. He gives up the easiest goals because he just makes stupid goaltending plays. So ignore that one. So I'm going to look. We're getting to the end here. By the time this weekend is over, 8 NHL teams will be gone. Take that in, everybody, right now, who's been enjoying this crazy start to August that we've had. Teams are going to start leaving their bubbles now. Teams are going to start going home. This is going to start coming to a close. We're going to start looking towards football season, which if you're an ACC fan, they just announced their schedule today. That's another thing that we could possibly talk about in the future. Futures there. Do not take the Clemson Tigers future. It is not worth it. The number is -445. You're going to get better odds than that no matter who they play in the championship game. Why tie up your money in a pointless futures bet when you can just bet a 1-game bet in the ACC championship game? That'll probably be around -250 to -300 at the most. Keep that in mind. I know that's a side note, but we're going to stop seeing teams play. The Rangers are already home. Like I said, Winnipeg, they're getting on their plane to go back to wherever Winnipeg is. I honestly have no idea where that is located in Canada. So, but they're getting on their plane and they're getting out of here. And so this is it. We're getting to the final 16 teams. We'll be there by Monday, which even if that means if you don't see me for some reason again this weekend, you will be seeing me Monday morning where I will be talking some lines that I like in terms of series bets and things like that. Now that we'll actually know who series are, maybe give you some futures for the NHL that I think could be good ideas, but I'll only put one on the card so that I can go 1-0. I'm not hedging myself here. All right, tomorrow's games in the NHL. We're looking at Friday. We got the Panthers taking on the Islanders. Yes, there's a Florida hockey team for anybody who doesn't know that. They do play in Miami. It's really funny. It's crazy that that team exists. Anyway, so we have Florida Panthers taking on the Islanders. The Islanders are up 2-1 in the series. I think the Islanders are going to beat them here. I like the Islanders. And look, when it comes to hockey, you're going to have to eat the juice and just take the money lines here because doing the 1.5 goal thing, it's too stressful. These games go to overtime and it's an automatic 1 goal. So I'm going to take the Islanders, though. I think this is a pretty fair price. They're only the 7 seed, and Florida is the 10 seed. But the Islanders have looked better pretty much throughout this series. I thought they were going to sweep them. I thought they had that one in the bag. I'm happy I didn't do it on the card because that might have been a bet that I would have made that day, and then that would have been a loss. But I like them here. I like them in this spot. It's only -127, so really for a favorite, really not bad juice at all. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put that one on the card, the New York Islanders over the Florida Panthers, so that they don't have to go to a game 5 and play another game on the last day of the early series, whatever you want to call these. Next game, Nashville versus Phoenix, Nashville versus Arizona, if you will. I still call them the Phoenix Coyotes. That's how old I am. But I don't like anything here. In the last game, Nashville took the first 8 or 9 shots of the game and still gave up the first goal. And it was Arizona's first goal. Arizona beats them 4-1. I think Nashville should be able to pull out this game. They should be able to pull out this win. However, I don't want to go all in on this because when I watch them play, they take a lot of shots. Their goalie doesn't save a lot of pucks. That's a problem in the playoffs. That's just a problem. So I'm going to ignore that one. And then I'm going to go against everything I just said. And I'm going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers versus the Chicago Blackhawks. I like Edmonton here. Edmonton should have won the last game. They should be up 2-1. They gave up 2 goals really late in the game, which was great for me because I had the over, but it was bad because it meant Edmonton lost the game. They're going to force a game 5 here. The juice, again, not that bad. Minus 136 right now. I like 2 things in this game, though. The over is still at 6.5. Vegas does not want to push that number any higher. Every single game in this series has gone over. If you watch the goaltending play, it's terrible, but the people who are shooting are also really good. So I like this one on 2 bets here that I'm going to be putting on the card. Edmonton Oilers to win over the Chicago Blackhawks and the total in the game to go over 6.5. If you bet the over on every one of these games, you've hit it all 3 times. Why not a 4th? It's just a fun game to watch. I know this one comes on really, really late for anybody who's on the East Coast. It's coming on at 10:30 at night half the time. But these games are so much fun. These 2 teams just score and score and score, and there's such great pace to the games. I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 bets for that one on the card. The other 5-12 matchup in the Eastern Conference, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Montreal Canadiens. Another one. The Penguins should have won the last game. They lose it. I like the Penguins to get the job done here, force a game 5, minus 162. Eating a little bit more here than maybe you want to. So maybe you can shop around, find it for something like minus 150 or even lower. But I'm going to go ahead. I don't mind doing it. Minus 162. I'd rather win my bets for a little bit worse of money than lose my bets for really great, crazy odds. I mean, that's just the way I am. So the Russell Hantz Show. Russell's asking me, the NFL Bengals making the playoffs? Absolutely. Absolutely, Russell. I mean, put all your no, the NFL Bengals are not making the playoffs. Although without fans being in the stands for a lot of these teams, especially early on, the Bengals might be able to win a game or 2. Lambeau Field not having fans in the stands for the first 2 home games of the season. Their 3rd home game's not till November 3rd. So if they were to play November 3rd with fans, I think the Lions get them early in the season. Going to be interesting to see what Vegas does with lines, considering now the Lions are just going to be able to play the Packers at pretty much even strength without the crazy home field advantage. It's a really good break for a team like the Lions, getting them early in the season and possibly being able to pull out the win. All right. That's a sidetracking me, Russell, sidetracking me. All right, what else do I have here? Toronto versus Columbus. I don't really like anything in this one. These 2 teams have been very even throughout this series. If I were to go ahead and look at it right now, Columbus ends up winning tonight's 4-3 in overtime. They were losing 3-1, stormed back, made a great run, end up winning the game. I don't like either team. I can't make a bet on either team, not in any type of confidence. Vancouver versus Minnesota. Now, here's one where I do feel pretty good. Vancouver just won tonight, 3-0. Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken, has won the last 2. I think they went down 1-0, but I want to look this up before I say this because this was one I was kind of basing on. Yeah, they were down 1-0, lose the first game 3-0, win the next one 4-3, and then win 3-0 today. I feel like they have the Wild's number. I just feel like they have their number, and I feel like they're just going to be able to keep running away with this and just keep playing really, really well. I want to see what the number is now because it was in the middle of switching like crazy because the game hadn't gone final, although you would think that people would have been able to see like, hey, they're going to win this game. But let me go ahead and let me just check real quick. We have the Vancouver Canucks at plus 105. Mini underdog play. I know I'm giving you a lot of NHL, but this is what I feel like you can figure out right now. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put the Vancouver Canucks on the card at plus 105 as a mini underdog. I think it's worth betting. I'm telling you, I just don't trust the NBA tomorrow. I just really do not trust the NBA tomorrow. I think a lot of things are going to change. And so I'm going to avoid that. Again, with this going on, we have so many if necessary games when you look at the NHL going through the weekend. Saturday, we don't know if we're going to get a Montreal-Pittsburgh, although I just told you we were. We don't know if we're going to get a Chicago-Edmonton, although I just told you we were. Vegas versus Colorado that day. That'll be a really fun game. I do like Colorado in that one, but I got to see the price first. I don't know what they're going to be favored by, so I don't want to go too crazy. Philly versus Tampa. I like the over as long as it's like 5.5. I don't want it going any higher than that. Philly's goaltending play, though, has been really, really good. So maybe I take this back. I'm definitely not going to put that on the card. I want to see what it's like. But Tampa scores, and then they always give up their lead. That seems to be their MO here. The Flyers just play consistent hockey for as long as they're out there. They've been playing really good hockey. I don't know if anybody watched their game today. They took down the Washington Capitals, and they looked really good doing it. They win 3-1. The game was always in control. I'm starting to be a believer in the Flyers. Now, granted, I am a Flyers fan, so I'm warning all of you again, since it's only the third episode, might be new listeners. But I'm pretty confident in this Flyers team right now. They're probably going to be dogs against Tampa. That might be one, I don't know. It's probably not worth looking at because Tampa could come out and just shut them down. Tampa always does get out to good leads, like I said, and then they just fall apart. So I don't know. It's a tough one to make a call on, but I do like the way Philly's been playing. I like the way Colorado's been playing. Those are two teams that I'm really liking right now. You get to Sunday, you got 4 if necessary games: Dallas versus St. Louis, Boston versus Washington. I like Dallas there over St. Louis. I don't know what the line's going to be, but if I was doing this on Sunday, which I don't think I am, or I might be, I'm probably going to end up putting Dallas on the card, but I kind of got to see what the line is again. It's too early. So makes it a little bit harder here with Dallas versus St. Louis. Although I do like that one. Boston and Washington, I'm not touching. I want to see those two teams figure out what they want to be before I start putting my money on them. I don't like that at all, just because of how they've been playing. So let's take a look now at the MLB. We've gone through some, I tried to go through pretty much every game that I could here for the NBA and the NHL, explaining kind of why I can't take these just yet. I have to see what's going on day of. As I said earlier, if you don't follow me yet on my Twitter at Phil Wood Jr., and if you don't look, if you haven't gone onto my website, realphilwood.com, make sure to check it out because there's a lot that you can see on a daily basis that I'm putting up. Because I want, whatever. I want you guys to see what I'm thinking. And I think it's fun every day to kind of be able to look at these bets. So I'm going to jump over to the MLB and I'm going to start looking at those bets. I have 3. So I have 3. So right now, the amount of bets you should have on your card is 9. We're going to add 3 more, which gives us 12. They're pretty much all tomorrow. So you're going to have a lot going on. Or if you're listening to this Friday, they're all today. MLB, I'm looking at the Yankees game. Tanaka versus Snell. The Yankees just lost the series to the Phillies, or maybe they split it. I forget exactly, but they lost 2. I know that. So they lose 2 to the Phillies. Their offense hasn't looked great. Masahiro Tanaka has been okay this season. Blake Snell has been terrible. Blake Snell was the one who said he didn't want to even come back because of coronavirus and all that. So he really hasn't looked great this season. However, I don't want to touch this over-under because both of them are great pitchers. Both of them can get it under control at any moment, and all of a sudden, you're sitting there scratching your head going, why did I take this bet? I feel like an idiot for taking this bet. So I'm not going to actually touch this bet in terms of the over-under. I'm going to take the Yankees, though, coming off a little bit of a slump here, losing, dropping themselves down to 9-3. Yeah, they split. Thank you, MLB Joey. It was split 2-2. I forgot because they keep moving around the schedule. I can't keep up with what's going on in terms of how many games they're actually playing against each other. I just knew they lost 2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the Yankees. I'm trusting Tanaka right now. I'm trusting the Yankees offense. I think it gets back together. I think Snell can pitch a good game, but Snell hasn't pitched many innings yet since he's been back. So I think that the move right now is to go with the Yankees here. Really nice price, especially on a Yankees team that could win the World Series, has been one of the best teams all year. They're minus 108, definitely worth looking at. This one's for MLB Joey because I can't help him. Mets Marlins over 8. I'm taking that one. I think it's really good. The Marlins are 6-1, as MLB Joey has said 900 times in the chat here. But that is something worth saying 900 times. The Miami Marlins are 6-1. They had the biggest disaster of this COVID era, and they've come back with a makeshift team, and they're the first place makeshift Marlins. That is insane. They're 6-1. Granted, they did just play the Orioles, who aren't good, so no offense, but they're a bad team. But I like them here in this spot to score runs. They've been scoring runs. Michael Wacha, who's going to be starting for the Mets tomorrow, gave up 6 earned runs, or has given up 6 earned runs on the season, gave up 5 in his last start against the Braves. It is the Braves who are definitely better than the Marlins. However, right now the Marlins have something going, and I want to see this one Sandy Alcantara is starting for Alcantara. I can forget it. He's starting for the Miami Marlins. I think the Mets will be able to get some runs off of him. So I really, really like this one to go over. It's only set, I believe, at 8. I think I saw it at 8 on one thing. So there you go. The Marlins versus the Mets over under. Hang on. I'm looking to make sure I'm not. Yeah. Marlins Mets over under. It's at 8.5. Take the 8.5 over 8.5. Putting that one on the card. Miami Marlins, New York Mets, over 8.5, putting it on the card. The next one, I got Houston versus Oakland. So this is my third and final MLB bet. I got Houston versus Oakland, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the under in this game. We have Zach Greinke taking on, I wrote it down and now I can't remember, Bassett for Oakland. I like this one to go under. I think this turns into a little bit of a pitching duel. Both pitchers have been pretty good this season. I know Greinke hasn't been like himself, so that's an issue, maybe some cause for concern. But also, the Astros offense hasn't been great this year. They've struggled a little bit early on. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the under 8 here. I think both pitchers come out, they get their 5 innings, which is what I had said with the Mets versus Braves, one of our losses from last week, which was brutal, which was absolutely brutal. And it was because, I mean, Mike Soroka didn't have it, and then he tore his Achilles, which was really a shame. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the under in this Houston game. I think that's a really good bet, and I'm going to put that on the card, under 8 runs for Houston Astros and Oakland Athletics. That's all I really got for this week for on the card. I got 12 bets. I got the Yankees money line -108 tomorrow. Mets Marlins over 8.5. Oakland Houston under 8. Spurs -5.5. OKC Memphis under 224. Washington New Orleans over 230. Now, granted, the Washington New Orleans and the Spurs are both me just kind of guessing at what the lines would be and telling you what I would put on the card. So keep that in mind in case you see them at different numbers. Those are the best. The 230, I wouldn't take it any higher than that. The Spurs, I wouldn't take them any higher than -5.5. Portland +3.5. I think it's probably going to be around that. I would love it if it was +5, +6. That would be awesome. But I like Portland to cover and probably win that game. And I think they're going to be dogs. And then in the NHL, where I do have actual real things, Penguins win money line, Oilers money line, Oilers Blackhawks over 6.5, Islanders and Vancouver. Those are all tomorrow, so I'm really thinking about that now. This is just it's a really tricky time right now if you're a sports bettor. It's a really tricky time. Things are starting to look a little weird. And that's the biggest fear right now is when things look weird, Vegas tends to win because people, they start to adjust and bettors don't adjust. So my number one point today would be adjust. Keep in mind what's going on in this bubble, in all the bubbles that are going on, and pay attention to what's happening in these games. Look for, who's not playing. Don't just immediately jump to a conclusion and you'll end up winning some bets for sure. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Phil Wood Jr. Check out my website, realphilwood.com. Like I said, I have betting tips each day. Pretty much gone over 500 every day on that site. So things have been doing really, really well over there. So if you want to check that out, you can do that every day. I mean, I'm going to be putting out articles every single day. And I think I'm going to end up coming back to you pretty soon here, probably earlier than I said, which was supposed to be on Monday. I'm going to be coming back, I think, sometime this weekend to kind of break down a couple more games because we got to see what comes out with these NBA players. We don't know who's going to play, and it seems like everybody's benching somebody because everybody's just so tired right now. So thanks for joining. Make sure to go follow me on Twitter, and I will see you next time